Hello there. So sometimes the CRA gets audited. We all know that the CRA likes to audit people. I shouldn't say likes to, they do audit people. But sometimes they get audited too. And they were, not for their finances, for their call center. And I think it was the CBC that did it. And, well, they wouldn't have done the audit, but they were the ones that reported on it. They didn't do so well. I would say they failed. I feel like they got a D on their audit, which, to me that's bad. And it really reinforces that the CRA is not perfect. We know they're not perfect, but they're also human beings that are answering the phone. They're gonna make mistakes. And so when we, as small business owners, when we're calling in to the small business call center, it's important to recognize that we're speaking to humans that can make mistakes. So something to keep in mind, there's no need to accept the answer that you're given from a CRA's representative. If you get an answer that doesn't feel right, or it's really going to be overly difficult to accomplish, or you didn't understand what they were trying to say to you, just call them back. You're going to get a new representative, and they're definitely going to be able to help you out. Well, I shouldn't say definitely. Somebody will. You might have to call them back a couple times, but you will get an answer that makes sense to you. You'll get someone that can explain it to you. And they're human beings. We also have to understand that the Canadian tax system, it's not as cut and dry as sometimes it feels like. Every law is interpreted and applied to the situation of the taxpayer. So sometimes it's pretty simple and there's not a lot of wiggle room. Like if you have a T4 and that's the only thing that's going on your personal income tax, then that's pretty simple. There's not a lot of choice to be made there. But in some cases, like with small business owners, what you can deduct and how much of various expenses you can deduct are really gray. The CRA gives us guidance on the tax laws and they give us interpretations and that kind of thing, but even that is being interpreted by the person that's looking at your file. So sometimes they get it wrong. Sometimes they will make a decision or they'll call you out on something and you were right and they shouldn't have called you out on that. So if you're going through a review or you're going through an audit or the CRA has given you a decision and you don't agree with it, then it's okay to respond to them. You can actually say to them, hey, no, I think you're wrong. You definitely need to be able to speak their language when you're doing that kind of thing, because it's important that you're both saying the same thing. So certainly if it's a big dollar amount or it's something that you don't totally understand, I recommend hiring a professional to help you navigate the CRA and the tax law. It could be that maybe you're not understanding a piece of the law, or it kind of goes both ways. Like sometimes the CRA is wrong, sometimes we as small business owners are wrong. So we want to make sure that we are approaching it from the best place we can, and a lot of times that means hiring a professional. But it's kind of a game. We're trying to interpret the law, and we're trying to make our moves and make decisions and just do our best. And if you get it wrong, then it's not, I don't want to say it's okay, because we don't want to intentionally do things wrong, but you have a while to fix it. Like 10 years. You have 10 years that you can amend your tax return. So if you're amending, so this year, 2020, the furthest that you could go back and change a tax return is 2010. So even if we have filed something and it wasn't quite right, or the CRA has made a decision that we don't really like, we have a bunch of time to figure it out. So there's no reason to rush. There's no worry about it. I mean, usually there's a lot of worry caught up in that, but it's a lot less of an emergency than it sometimes feels like. I like to say there's no such thing as an accounting emergency. And this is one of those facts that support that statement. Generally speaking, taxes are scary, and the CRA is scary because it feels like they're a big unmoving source of income tax law. Like they are the authority, and while they administrate tax law, they are sometimes wrong, and they're made up. The CRA is made up of individual people, and so we can call them and we can talk to them, and sometimes they make mistakes that we need to correct. I personally love tax time. I don't maybe want to get into it because it's a bit weird to explain. I love tax time though. So, if you want to chat about your taxes, if you don't want to be on hold with the CRA, you could book 30 minutes with me. And I'd love to chat with you about your taxes. That's something I enjoy talking about. Partly because it is kind of like a game. I'll leave the link to my call booking in the description. I've also left the link to the CBC News story so that you can go and read the results of that audit. It's not great. And the CRA promises to do better. Oh, they're talking about introducing a chat bot. That'll be interesting. If you have a question for me about taxes and you want to leave it in the comments, I would love to do a video for you in the future. And if you leave it today, I might even do a video for you tomorrow. Until then, remember the CRA is not as bad as it seems. I will see you tomorrow.